Hey everybody, we're going to go over how to set up the Doorman Station. I should go ahead and note that the components that you see here, they are the original prototype version. So if you happen to be watching the other videos, you'll notice some of the components look slightly different from an aesthetic point of view, but this will work for now. So to start, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to remove all the celebrities. The celebrities have a gold background and they have a star at the bottom, so they're easily identifiable. And there's 5 of them, so we're just going to take those out and set them aside. After you take the celebrities out, you're going to shuffle the deck and then you're going to draw 25 cards randomly from this deck. Okay, here's my 25. The remainder you can go ahead and put aside. You won't be using those for right now. So once you get those, you can go ahead and shuffle them, and then you are going to place them face up on the patron draw deck. You have 6 of these color dice. You're going to take 5 of them and set them by the Doorman Station, and then you're going to take the top 5 cards and you are going to put them in the queue, the doorman line. Basically saying that these people are in line waiting to get in. And they're going to go in order from left to right. So he essentially is here the longest. After you go ahead and put your 5 up, you will take 3 wooden nickels and place them on each patron. I'm actually going to skip over this gentleman right here. He is a special patron, and we can kind of see that by the little iconography down the bottom. We'll get more into that later on, but just know for now, these special patrons, they don't receive any wooden nickels. And that is it. That is how you set up the Doorman Station. All right. So now that we've got everything set up for the Doorman Station, we're going to go into the basic turn for the Doorman. You have these color dice. You have 2 things that you can do with these. One of them is to schmooze with any of the patrons that's currently in line at the Doorman Station, or you can lock them onto patrons to move them into the club. You must decide who you're going to schmooze with and how many patrons you're going to schmooze with before rolling to lock on a patron and get them into the club. So when I say schmoozing, what that means is you take 1 die and you discard it, or you sacrifice it. And for doing so, you get 2 wooden nickels to add to 1 patron, or you get 2 wooden nickels to add to 2 patrons. There is a maximum of 3 wooden nickels per patron, so if you're at your maximum, you can't add any more additional wooden nickels. But let's just say this gentleman here only had 1 wooden nickel left. I could apply both these wooden nickels onto there. And when you schmooze, essentially what you're doing is you're just chumming it up with the patrons in line, making them have a good time, stuff like that. So basically make your patrons a little happier while they're waiting in line so they don't get disgruntled. All right, so you've sacrificed this die to schmooze. So what you have left is 4 dice remaining to roll and lock onto patrons. So let's just go ahead and back up and assume that we're not going to schmooze with anybody right now. We're going to go ahead and use all 5 of these dice to roll and get patrons into the club. So you're going to take all 5 and you're going to roll. And you're going to try to lock the color of the die on the color of the card. So each one of these patrons that we have a certain color background, and that represents a certain social class. The red are the mobsters, the green are the aristocrats, the blue, which are, I don't see any up here, the blue are politicians, the gold are celebrities, which I'll show you there. Here is a blue for the politician. And then lastly, we have the patrons that don't have a background. It's basically like a grayish color or black. Those are the regulars. So those have special rules, same with the celebrities. So, as I was stating, you take the color of the die that was a blue, and you would match it. So he's the first one in line, so obviously I'm going to try to get this person in line first. Here's a red, there's a red, so I'm going to lock that die right on there. I have blue, blue, and orange, nobody else, so I can't lock one. So to re-roll, I'm going to sacrifice one of the remaining dice. So I have 3 left, and now I can roll again. And 2 purples and a blue, not going to help me. So I'm going to sacrifice one more to roll the remaining 2. A blue and a yellow, nothing. And so I'm going to sacrifice and roll one more time, hopefully get a green here. There we go. There's a green, so I'm going to put it on him. So that's my turn with the dice. So what this means now is this gentleman will go into the club and this gentleman will get into the club. There are markers on these cards that determine which direction they go, whether they're going to go to the bar or to the band. And on this prototype version, they're really hard to see, and we've changed them on the new version. But these little black squares that are filled in determine which direction they move. Here's one that's filled in on the right side. There's nothing on the left side, so this means this patron will go to the right and head to the bar. Same with this gentleman. He's got a little filled in square there. He is going to go that way. So he's going to go first, go to the bar. He's going to go second and go to the bar. Everybody else then just moves right up in line. And then at the end of your turn, anybody that is still in line that did not get in that turn loses 1 wooden nickel for waiting too long. They're getting a little impatient. So these 2 would lose their wooden nickels. Again, he doesn't have wooden nickels. There's a special rule with him, so we'll talk about him a little bit later. So that is a simple turn for the Doorman Station. We're going to back up just a little bit here and talk about some of the skipping rules and things like that here. So let's just go ahead and assume that I'm rolling all 5 of these dice. And at the very end of rolling everything, I had a green and let's say I had 2 greens. The rest didn't work. And so I can move these 2 patrons into the club. All right, so he would go to the bar. She's filled in on the left side, so she would go to the band. The problem with this is that he was in line first. He's been there the longest. So you are skipping him with this gentleman, and you are skipping him with her. So he's getting skipped twice. And just like in real life, if you got skipped at a club and someone behind you got in line, you'd be a little upset. So for each person that skips him, he loses a wooden nickel. So in this case, he would lose 2 wooden nickels right off the bat just for being skipped twice. These guys would move up, and then again, at the end of your turn, anybody still waiting in line that did not get in would lose a wooden nickel. So he would lose his last and final wooden nickel, and he would lose 1. Since he no longer has wooden nickels, he is furious. He's done with this club. He doesn't even want to enter. He leaves the club, he's discarded, and he's gone out of the game, or for this scenario at least. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the overflow stack. The Doorman line is only allowed to have a maximum of 5 patrons at the main line. Anything over 5 and up to 10 would go into the overflow stack, which goes right here. So let's assume all 5 spots are occupied and you have new patrons coming into the club. Let's say we have 3 new patrons, okay? You're going to take all 3 and you're going to take the oldest and put them on the bottom of the stack, and you're just going to put them right there. You're then going to take 2 wooden nickels and apply them on top of that overflow stack. That is to remind you that when these start to go into the club and the people can start filling up this line, when they do enter the line, they are only allowed to have a maximum of 2 wooden nickels when starting in the line. That is the penalty for being in the overflow stack. Basically what we're saying is the line is so long at the Opulent that it starts to go around the corner of the building, and you got people back here, and obviously they're a little disgruntled that the line is so long. if you have 5 here and you have 5 people in the overflow stack, any new patron that comes in at that point, if you're completely full, automatically leaves. They go somewhere else for their entertainment. The line is so long that they just don't even want to bother waiting in line. So that is the overflow stack. Earlier we talked a little bit about some of the special patrons. Let's go ahead and go into that. The special patron here in this case is Frank Collins. And he can be identified by this little icon right down there that looks like sort of like a door lock handle. That represents that he is the regular for the doorman station. And they're essentially problematic patrons. So he is really just going to cause problems for the doorman in this case. And so what happens with Frank, he will never get into the club. He will always try to get in, but he never will. So as you're playing and you move patrons into the club, let's say, these people get in, you rolled some dice and whatnot. As he gets to the front of the line, he stays there. He never goes beyond the front of the line. So as new patrons start piling in, you are then going to try to get her in, and you're just going to try to forget about him. And so you'll work with her next, and then her, and then him. He will stay there. And the reason that's a problem is because he's always going to occupy a space. Essentially, when he's in there, you only have room for 9 people rather than 10 people before people start leaving before they even try to get into the line. Okay, so one thing that I would like to talk a little bit about and clarify is how to handle the special patrons when they enter the club. In this scenario, let's say we rolled 2 greens. These 2 gentlemen are going to go ahead and get into the club. This will move Stanley Edwards, who is the regular patron he's the problematic patron for the bartender. As soon as a special patron gets to the front of the line, they will automatically get into the club and they will go to their respective station. All right, so let's take this same example, let's backtrack just a little bit, and let's go ahead and assume that Frank Collins is also in line. And if you remember correctly, Frank is the special patron or the problematic patron for the doorman. He is always going to stay right there and he's going to occupy that space. So same scenario, these 2 gentlemen go ahead and get into the club. These patrons move forward. Stanley will go ahead and also enter the club because even though Frank's there, this spot now is considered the very front of the line. So we'll go ahead and let Stanley into the club, and then this gentleman will move up. Okay, so we're going to go over a couple of special rules, some little caveats, things like that I think would be helpful. So let's just assume that I've already rolled my 5 color dice, and the only thing I rolled was a green. Well, no, let's say we did a red instead. We'll put it on this guy. We rolled a red, and we're going to go ahead and let this gentleman into the club. And if you remember earlier, we talked about when you skip somebody, they lose a wooden nickel, the person that's being skipped. So if we let him into the club, he is skipping her and him. So both of these people would lose 1 wooden nickel. If 2 people got in before these 2 people, then 2 wooden nickels will be moved from anybody that's skipped. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about real quick is just when an opposing mob member enters the club. At the beginning of the game, or whenever the manager decides to negotiate a contract, he will decide whether to receive liquor from the Italian families or whether to get them from the Irish families. So let's say, for example, right now that the club manager decided to get their liquor from the Italian families. So we have a contract with the Italians. Here in line, we do have an Irishman. So he's an opposing mob member. If you choose to do so, if the doorman decides to let this gentleman into the club, he will announce, hey, I have an opposing mob member entering the club. I have an Irishman, and we are aligned with the Italians. So in that case, what would happen is for every Irish person that comes in, or Irish mobster that comes into the club, you will discard 2 alcohol resources from the bar. They can be either the beer or liquor. We'll get a little bit more into that on the bar station and on the manager station where we talk about negotiating contracts. But just know that when you let an opposing mob member in, to announce it so the bartender can make changes. Okay, so next we're going to go over some of the special rules, specifically the celebrities. Celebrities can be identified. They have a gold background and they'll have a certain number of stars at the bottom of their card, 1 through 5. Celebrities, they require a lot of attention and they need to be pampered. So when they enter the line, they need to be attended to. To get a celebrity into the club, you need to allocate the number of dice that is equal to the number of stars that are on their card. So in this example, we have a 3-star celebrity, so you need to allocate those 3 dice. They can be any color, you don't even need to roll them. When you allocate those 3, that celebrity will go into the club, and you have 2 dice remaining to try to get the remaining patrons into the club. When the celebrity does get into the club, they don't go to a particular station. You will just go ahead and move her right into the middle of the club. And from there, the manager will take care of her and he will have to allocate some actions or some turns to pamper her and to attend to her. So, here's the cool thing. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit here. I talked about allocating the number of dice. Let's say, for example, this was a 1-star celebrity. I would only need to I'll allocate 1 dice. Or die. If it was the 5-star celebrity, I would have to use all 5 of my dice just to get that celebrity into the club, obviously neglecting all the other ones. So let's say, for example, she gets into the club. The cool thing about celebrities is there are no skipping penalties with celebrities. So even though she did skip all 3 of these patrons, none of them are going to lose wooden nickels because they're not frustrated. Just like in real life, if you were at a club and a famous person such as Will Ferrell entered the club before you, you're not going to get mad. You're just going to be happy that you had the chance to see Will Ferrell. So the same with the celebrities. There is one rule about the celebrities. And because they are celebrities, they need to be attended to immediately so that if they get into the line and you do not get them into the club immediately on that turn, they will leave. You discard them, they'll be upset. They won't wait in line, essentially. Same thing goes, let's say we are maxed out on the line here and you are required to add new patrons to the line. If she has to go or a celebrity has to go into the overflow stack, they will just go ahead and leave the club. They're not going to wait. They're celebrities. So, she'll leave. Alright, so the last thing that I'd like to discuss real briefly is some of the special bonuses that you can apply to the Doorman Station. Specifically the staff upgrades and the club upgrades that can be purchased to benefit this particular station. So as you're playing campaign and you gain profits and you have some leftover money, you can purchase staff and upgrades that simply offer in-game bonuses to that station. Other than that, that's pretty much it. The Doorman Station is complete. That is how you play it.